All right, so we've talked about partnerships and planning, how you decide where to put things, funding, and we're going to finish up with one of the best designers I'm aware of wildlife crossings, and all around nice dude, Clark Stevens from the Santa Monica Mountains Resource Conservation District. He's going to talk about design for habitat connectivity.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the noise. Okay, great. So thanks to Courtney for explaining what a resource conservation district is. It took me, I'm 15 years with them now. I pretty much understand, but I still say something different every time. So I am Director of Resource Design at the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, which is still a good name for us because we're now named for the island of biodiversity that is a part of our district. But I will just mention that we've grown a bit. I'm going to talk about two projects in those white boxes, and that oval, dashed oval, represents a concept known as the rim of the valley. And that's a federal, it was a federal proposal that allowed us to piggyback as an RCD and say, hey, our partner is going to be out here soon. We got to get out there too. So we expanded our sphere of influence very recently. Unfortunately, the rim of the valley at the federal level hasn't gotten there, but the idea is to think cohesively about this area. This is the San Fernando Valley, and you can see those transverse ranges and various broken pieces that connect it all together. First of the projects is one that I started with Don. Don mentioned that I just realized his first project was my first RCD wildlife crossing project as well. But before zooming right in, I wanted to just talk about why the Santa Monica Mountains is an island of habitat, and why it's something we can connect to. There have been 40 plus years, some of the same people have been there their entire career that have worked to turn the Santa Monica Mountains themselves, which is a worldwide real estate market. They've somehow managed to hold it together, public and private NGOs, and conserved a big connected block, which is really worth a case study in and of itself to see how that happens in a major metropolitan area. On the right, you can see the 2013 no funding graphics. You're seeing a bit of the original 2006 linkage design that was done. Christine Penrod and others, probably somebody here that I'm forgetting. And then on the left is something we did as an update because that inspired so many different science-oriented and planning studies that you can see that list of layers that we put into this kind of suitability analysis and update, East Branch linkage update. The bottom of which is a green rectangle, which is the, I'm going to call it is now the Annenberg project, but when I was working on it, it was Liberty Canyon project. So October 2014, a lion was killed. You can kind of see why. It was a line of sight, made a dash for it from north to south, and made it all the way across after coming from the San Gabriels, which means something like 20 lanes of traffic that he made it across safely before, probably more than that, probably about 26 lanes before he got struck on almost there because there was an 8-foot tall fence. And so Fran Pavley and Joe Evanston convened all of the public lands people. The RCD comes along for the ride. We don't have any land. We don't have any regulatory authority. We have no budget. So anyway, we were there. And the first thing that came out of this with this diagram, it's like, we have to do something at this location because there have been successful crossings documented by MPS with collar trapping, which has been going on a long time. There's a lot of good data. So you can see there's an opportunity here, left to right. We have the general area that was identified for an overcrossing. There was an opportunity for a tunnel because of the gradient. and then a simple kind of undercrossing project. But what you need to remember about this place is that it really is the last best place for a crossing. Again, this is from 2013, 2014, and you can see that's 1,600 feet between those two yellow lines that's left. And the only place through the San Fernando Valley where there's only one collector road on one side, which is really important. So the north side is completely public conservancy land, San Mont's conservancy land. And so that became, the location for early studies in the process here. So this is during we call it the PSR, that first Caltrans phase study there. But after that meeting, Fran asked us to get a proposal together for WCB in about 3 weeks. So she could get it in. Being on the board, she could make sure it got in there. And so this is what we put together as a kind of idea of what we wanted to fund: a master plan and initial undercrossing improvements, which is this green area along what used to be Vendel Place. Interesting story about Vendel Place related to Caltrans and abandonment of land and rights that almost caused a problem. But we were able to secure that funding, and again, you can see it in this drone shot, all the various pieces where the overpass would go. But the first phase was habitat threads and connectors. So we're working on the approach landscapes, and then one of our options was to go under, which we were hopeful. But looking at what we started with, not particularly attractive day or night to wildlife passage. So again, Don was our first first project manager with WCB funds, and here the group is at the site. This is shortly after installation. You can see that if you look to the left, past Mark Abramson, who's no longer with us, but was critical for making this happen. You'll see there's a bare bank, and there's about 3 lanes of asphalt there. There's a left turn lane and 2 drive lanes. And on the right, you're looking up from the little skinny connector that Paul Edelman was able to negotiate from a development permit for an office park there. And so you can kind of see the view of wildlife coming up. What we created was a fake stream to replace the one that was disconnected by the freeway long ago, and it was in a 340-foot long pipe that had a bend in it. And yet P64 used over and over and over again after we did the first part, which was to clean the culvert out. So to your point, Francis, it may be coincidental, but yeah, that was the timing there. So you can see after a rain, it actually is functioning also as a bioswale. It takes the drainage off of that interchange and cleans it. And this is early on. That gravel rock is all grown in now. But what's been interesting to see is that thinking about cover and behavior. So this is just finished. This is the study of the crossing area, which will include the Annenberg crossing, which I think shows up as a little star. You can see that. So that's just west of the undercrossing site. But what was really interesting to see, there were no deer crossings, and we had the cameras up for a long time during construction, but before construction of the underpass, and there was no usage of deer. And then there was, once it grew in, but if you can see in the background there, you don't see any vegetation. So when the deer started using it, they walked along looking at the habitat on the other side to make sure nothing was going to jump out and eat them, I think. So this was pretty interesting to see this with the deer behavior. They're walking just on the compacted earth, but there's a really good little crossing in there, and there's some coyotes have used that. There's other cameras, but the deer consistently, you can see all these little crossings. This was started with a rut, so was running back and forth, probably being chased, this doe, and then other deer joined that weren't collared that you can see in some of the other photos. So that's really interesting to see because, this is long 100, it's standard, it's not super high. It's what, 120 feet total of deck there, and the deer are using it. There have been a lot of other crossings, but we're not sure why. Or where, because they haven't hit the camera trap underneath, so they may be going over. And that's puma, coyote, as well as deer have been studied here. Getting into some of the nitty gritty of design things, just because to talk about how the science informs the 3 dimensions here, try to get across. This is the last best place, but it's not a good place. It's very difficult geometry. So what you see here is an early diagram documenting all of the important riparian trees that are there. There's some legacy valley oaks. And so we had to try and figure out how to get our center line down and over not just the freeway, but also Gurley Road. So the next view was one of those early 3D, whoops, went too far. One of the early 3D digital studies. This is something we were doing. Caltrans at that time didn't work 3-dimensionally. They couldn't use this model when we were working with them, but we were using it to sort of display what the issues were going to be. And then this next one is actually a 3D printed and CNC milled surface that later became a model of the project. But you can really see the micro topography in the furrows and even the need for a little small retaining around one big tree there. So there wasn't a lot of room to wedge this in and get good gradients. This is an image of what was printed out of the model. So this is the final PAED phase model. It's now in final design, and now is the Annenberg Crossing project, which you've all not final design, is in construction. But from here, it went to final design as the Annenberg. Well, I'm an architect, 30 years. Design phase is done when the project is got a seal. So yes, you're still in design process. Trust me. And this is the view at that point when we left. So we moved on from there to that second area, and this is one of the priority barriers for CDFW. You can see this is the New Hall Pass Wildlife Connectivity Design Project, and unlike the other location, we have a lot of space to consider. The end result is going to be 65% of a wildlife passage structure. I'm not going to say overpass. You'll see why, because we don't know yet. But I want to note the team here. This is the feasibility phase was largely science led. So this is where you create the design parameters, but at the same time, you're also having to establish some design opportunities to feed into the science. So there's this integration that goes on there, which was nice to have in this process. Nice to have the time to do that. Again, WCB, I did want to mention on Liberty in that first part, our county was really critical too, as a funder and a promoter with Zeb, going back several supervisors now, Zeb Yaroslavsky. And that's, I don't think so typical in what I've been seeing, right? To see actually counties funding these things. 5, good, okay. Well, not good, but it is what it is. And so here's an overview. The idea here was to establish, we have a number of different, what our scientists call with Stillwater Science. By the way, I want to shout out to Isaac Brown at Stillwater and Amanda Zellner at Occidental College, because they're the primary authors of these modeling illustrations that you see. But the idea was to establish focal species and then look at focal species habitat and determine where we might have the best opportunity for connection. And this is where I was going to retitle my talk from connectivity to conductivity, because I really like this model, this omniscape model. It's electrical. It's like living currents. And so you talk about resistance. They actually don't talk about conductors, but I think we should, because drawing species over time, not just a day's walk or running across, but as was mentioned, relative to climate movement, The idea of conducting wildlife from a place that is working or isn't working so well to get them to another place that could, and enhancing along the way so that you get, that's what this model, the layering you see here, and it's got lots of different layers. We spent a lot of our time talking about how to tune it. Okay. So just to get to the projects, you'll see some light ovals because those ovals are the projects, right? Those are the crossings. So they include the approach landscapes, big time road diets, movement of the county road, because this ridge is here for a reason. We call it the Y. It's in the Duhall Pass. Very difficult topography, really cliffy, not a lot of ways in or out. So the best access points are these little green fingers that you see. So the Old Road X project, which is what we were calling it at that time, and Weldon are two that we're going, we're going to take forward into the environmental document, the CEQA phase with Caltrans. And so they're larger than just the crossing itself. I mean, that's true of Liberty and Annenberg. I mean, it's 1 acre in the air of habitat. The rest, up to 20 acres, is associated and necessary. So diagram of Weldon. Weldon is the overpass. Old Road X is very interesting. We have 70 feet of clearance there. So in this case, we're taking a county road, which narrows down oddly in the direction of LA, the city of LA, to 2 lanes. We're proposing to narrow it and lift it for about a half mile, 2,500 feet, and make a viaduct. What that allows us to do is to take stickleback, maybe one day steelhead habitat of the South Fork of the Santa Clara and daylight it. So you get a riparian connection as well. So you get the aquatic as well as the overland. And again, thinking about deer, one of the things we're going to be really careful about is to not over vegetate. We actually created some recreational pathways and relocated a parking lot out of a recreational zone. So you can see that connectivity from East Canyon, which is a major use area, also culturally significant, and lifting the road underneath here. So here's kind of we have a little GIF of this, but I couldn't make it work. But you can.
Do you want to put up the screen and point with the microphone?
Oh, sure. Okay, that'd be helpful. Yeah. So, right. So, freeway up in the air, big shadow, fat road, divided, major median, no clear reason why. Very few people use this. I come this way all the time, and I like to sneak off because everyone sits parked in the traffic. They don't know what's here. So we're hopeful that county. By the way, this is a county project too. So we're working with Caltrans because we're in the airspace, but the facility is county. Again, taking the lid off so you can see what happened. Don't worry, we're not going to do that. We know you can't do that. Again, you can see the shadow. So we've got up to 40-foot clearance from the bottom of the stream bed to the underside of this because it's, minimum aerial clearance there. So here it is, put back the top bucket back on, and no one's upset. So we just started, but I just thought because they're kind of fun and you can see 3-dimensionally. Sasha's further along with his Unreal Engine stuff, but that's what we're doing now. So we could put that in, but there's your creek. There's the bear right where he got hit. The bear got hit, but it was okay. So that's one of the markers in Fraser's data that he gave us. He actually lived, and they're seen quite frequently. Interesting enough, we worked with NBS data here. They had a little bit done, but we got a lot of citizen science data. There's a community, the only one in the mountains, and they're actually rooting for this one, even though it's going to be inconvenient. So it kind of goes to that community side. There'll be some inconvenience during construction, but they want it. They want it next to us. So look, 1 minute. I think I'm done. Well, oh yeah. So here you are. We call this the coach whip, which is a snake, right? That we have here, the coach whip eraser, and I'll show you why here in a minute. You'll be inside of it. And then the other one we're calling the condor. So we've got a couple of iconic species that are going to form the design. So let's see if this works. Yeah. So sound and light, important. We didn't want anything echoing around off that deck, so it actually kind of seals up in the middle there. And so
We're on the county road, right?
that's a county road. Yeah, it's the old road heading towards LA. I don't know what that line is in the air. Something looming in Los Angeles. All right, so just real quick, moving on from there, micro connectivity. Our next project is Southern LA County Master Planning Project, and we're really excited about this one. I'm going to take much the same team actually, and reduce the scale of that connectivity modeling. And what's interesting about this is that, you talk about community support. Urban communities want to have something that they can advocate for and take ownership of and tell a story about and pass on to their kids. So the last kind of integration I wanted to point out here is this kind of integration that builds a sense of equity and authorship. And with authorship comes proprietary interest in stewardship. And we have to do that because departments of recreation and parks can't take care of these places. If the community doesn't take ownership of these interior connections and places, we won't be successful. All right, the other one I'm not going to talk about, but I forgot that my first wildlife crossing project was actually in Rome, 2008. So if anyone's wondering about the meteor or how you get a Marsican brown bear to Rome and where it goes, we can talk to me later. He ends up at the Piazza del Popolo, just in the shadow of the Vatican, in case you're curious.
All right. Thanks very much, Clark. Okay. There's time for a couple of questions. Anybody has questions? Anybody have questions?
Hey, yeah, I've been advocating for biogas when I talk to people in Montana. I was just curious, do you have any cost estimates per mile, per foot or anything, or how they compare to other design that you're looking to?
Sasha's right next to you. He can tell you what it's going to cost. Actually, it's an interesting discussion. That's one of the things we talk a lot about is how do you represent cost when you start to publish your various things, and it's it's more sophisticated than this, but it's a little bit like, well, this is a little more than that, and that one's a little less than this one, and so it ends up being more relational, but there are secret numbers that Sasha's working with that we all know about, but surprisingly, it's not clear yet because we haven't finished. It's really early, right? We're not even type selection in the design process, but the viaduct, as long as it is, it doesn't have to go over the freeway so far and all that kind of, it's got a chance of being less costly actually to do a half mile of county roadway in the air and a stream restoration project than it is to do 10 lanes, including a recently widened truck lane situation in the past.
I have a cost question for you.
Yes.
So you made it sound like that county road wasn't used very much. Was there a discussion?
I didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said it.
No, I have to be careful about things like that.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's
Okay, so you didn't say that.
no, I did. I'm sorry. I've been surprised at how little it is, but when it is, it's trucks going real fast downhill.
So I'm wondering if it's worth it versus is there a duplicate pathway where they don't have to use that road and you can just get rid of the road?
No, it's not. It's for emergency. It is the north gateway to Los Angeles. I just, in fact,
Let me put it that way.
yeah, well, and also that bridge itself was, there's some confidentiality to even get to the bridge, the existing conditions. It's an important feature. So that could be, that's one reason we haven't decided, right? We're going to go through ICOET and we're going to learn more, with the facilities people in the county about what the issues are going under that.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you for joining us for this session looking at California's future of auto crossing. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of the place.